Oh
I had a
my
good,
God.
I had a good 8 minutes by myself there.
I was listening and I was like, oh, I wasn't listening. I'm like, man, I
Oh
wish I get what
crap!
he's saying. Okay, we're live now. Okay, we're trying this for the 100th time, guys. Thank you for joining us on our 22nd episode of Breaker Debates. I have with me who decided to join with me again, and thank him for his patience, Mr. Ken Phillips.
So everybody, we're
So
back.
hopefully we're good with this. We had to go ahead and start a new one. I had a lot of technical difficulties on my end, but that's all right. So in fact, I'm just going to shut up, Ken. I'm going to let you go ahead and start us off. We're continuing our discussion with the Marvel versus DC comics.
Yes, we've covered where they're at in media, like TV, animation. We've seen not necessarily into the comics themselves, but into the movies. Which
Yeah.
one we had better strength with, which ones we had better enjoyment with. And now tonight we're going to be hitting on teams. Which groups, which teams do you like the most in the Marvel and DC world? One of our topics when we kind of tried this round one last night was which teams are out there that provide good stories. Who puts the stories out there that people enjoy? And I found an article on a website called The Vulture that was talking about some of the teams. This is the 12 teams that define superhero storytelling, whether you agree or not. And I'll let you, Narik, as soon as I get done with this little list, throw some feedback
Yes.
in here. Because some of these we talked about last night,
Yeah.
getting our stuff going on. But for those who didn't get into that conversation last night, we talked about Justice Society of America, or the JSA, which was kind of more of your 1940s, 1950s original Justice League that had a lot of your characters in there. And one character that crosses over, actually, well, two characters that cross over are Hawkman and the Flash, but it's the old style Flash, like you've seen on the CW show that came from Earth 2, basically, that wore the silver helmet with the little wings on it.
Yeah.
But we have our Justice League of America that we know now with the Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, and all that good stuff. The Fantastic Four coming in from Marvel on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep on scrolling here. Adventure Comics, the original
Yes.
storylines. That's where your Superman came from. Very first, most valuable comic on the planet is a Superman or Action Comics #1. We come through a couple more. Some of these are kind of obscure groups, so I'm going to kind of burn past a little of those. But we have our X-Men that are in there. Suicide Squad's in there with the characters that we very well know. Boomerang, Deadshot rolling in there. Your more
Yeah.
modernized X-Men are in there. Birds of Prey, and then they're throwing in the Avengers.
Okay.
So kind of
Okay.
throwing those groups. Granted, I didn't give you all 12, but I hinted on some that we have talked about on our side discussions. But they also come from both Marvel and DC universes. So your thought process, Narik, which ones of those teams, or do you have other lists that you might come across that provide better storylines, or what one draws you in?
Um, when it comes usually to the storylines, it's about three things that allow me to enjoy the comical arcs. Honestly, it's the group of superheroes that are going to be in it, not even just superheroes, just the characters themselves are going to be in it. A villain that is memorable, but does have their personality and does pose quite a threat. And of course, I want to see new twists, new angles, new perspective. Those are the things that really get me when it comes to comics, and their
Fresh
story arcs.
perspectives.
Yes, yes. Um, of course, what you were saying. We have the Avengers. Because of the movies, I'm more into the Avengers now. I've always been into the Justice League. Of course, you have the X Men. They have great story arcs. You had the Dark Phoenix arc. There was also the Rise of Apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah, and as I was telling you the other day, I was going over the Blackest Night, which as I was reading through that, I thought that was a pretty interesting take on the whole Green Lanterns. Which again, the Green Lanterns are another great team as well.
And it's not just the Green Lanterns too. I mean, there are more colors.
Yes.
Sinestro went to the yellow. You've got red, blue. Green is the ones that we know, more of the law-abiding ones.
We
Uh,
had Blue. There's blue ones.
Yep, there's blue, red, yellow, green. I believe there's also. Oh, don't quote me. I don't want to sound stupid here. Let's go look up Green Lantern Corps while we're talking. I don't want to
I
sound
do think
stupid.
I think there's an orange and a pink one too.
I do remember a pink color. Let's see all the Green Lantern Corps we have here.
In fact, Star Sapphire was a part of the pink one. She became one of them.
Yeah, the more ones that we know are definitely the green.
Yes.
But there's so many. I mean, even just in their storyline alone. I mean, there's so many stories just in that little world.
Yes.
That you have to deal with. I mean, we've seen the Green Lantern movie that came out. Actually, it's the only one that's been out. I mean, granted, we talked about costuming was good and what we would expect, but the movie just kind of let us down a little bit there.
Yes.
Going through that. And there's some really interesting bad guys as well in there, but I was trying to find all the Green Lantern Corps, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But what other storylines? We talked about Apocalypse. You know, you talk about memorable bad guys. Let's go into some memorable bad guys. Who's some of your top, I guess, bad guys that have caught your eye, caught your storylines, and brought something to the table that you remember?
I'm a bit biased because I like. There's a majority of female characters that I do like. That kind of overshadow some of the more obvious bad guys. But to be on fair and be more accurate in this conversation, I would sit there and like to think he's a decent character. I do like Magneto. He's kind of like a tragic villain. Of course, I like the Joker. The Joker is one of my favorites. I like Clayface. I like Poison Ivy. I like going to switching back between Marvel and DC. I do like my favorite character in the favorite villain in the whole DC side of things is Harley Quinn.
Got to think for the Harley Quinn.
She's my number one.
Yeah, she's a kind of a tragic character in her own way. And granted, the Joker came from a crime family and ended up the way he did, but he basically made her the way she is.
Yes.
So much crazy. I've always kind of had a bad thing. I think for the bad guys in most movies. Yes. I don't know why. I just always kind of like that. The James Bond, the bad guy who knows everything. He's always one step ahead. And, unfortunately, though, we know that the bad guys usually tell you what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, because they think you're going to die, and it ruins the whole movie. Yes. But in the comic book series, you don't really get that. You see a lot of these bad guys showing up. We were talking Darkseid. We saw a hinkling of him coming possibly in the Justice League movie, possibly in the next Superman movie. They're throwing a lot of names out there. One of the ones that caught my eye on the new Superman movie would be Brainiac.
Yes.
There's been so many versions of Brainiac, from like a humanoid-looking character with little dots on his head to the full mechanical, biomechanical, alien-looking thing that's out there. But, he's kind of like, we talk about comparisons of bad guys like Ultron in Marvel World.
Yeah, that's the biggest comparison. Yeah. So, and who do you think wins out more between Ultron and Brainiac? And who do you think has better motivation?
Ultron, well, they don't really get into the true storyline. What you saw in the movies was not quite exactly how Ultron came around in the comic series.
Yeah.
Ultron was basically going to be a defense mechanism, but it came from Hank Pym, we know from Ant-Man.
Yes.
His mind was basically mapped of Hank Pym, but in order to protect humanity from basically itself. And Ultron decided that humanity was actually the problem. Mm-hmm. And it became sentient and went on its own thing. And it is a cold-hearted, methodical killing machine. And it has taken entire teams to drop Ultron, at least in one physical form.
Yes.
In every series that you run across him. But he is zero caring. He does not care. And he's exterminating life. Where Brainiac is more kind of like Brainiac absorbs information, catalogs it, saves it, stores it, and keeps on trucking. It's not a matter of destruction. It's a matter of absorbing.
Like
knowing all there is to know.
Yes.
and it's not killing to kill like Ultron is. It's a being that is designed to absorb information.
Yeah.
And when it digitizes and you die in a process, so be it. It's not like it's planning to kill you. It's just that's how it does the things.
Yes.
So I mean, in pure killing power, we got Ultron, but in side effect of Brainiac is basically whatever he absorbs tends not to make it through. So it's
I
kind of
think I personally think that those two are pretty good comparisons to one another. They're kind of the same idea, but they just come from two totally different backgrounds. Um, like I can't really imagine maybe Dark Horse or Image Comics coming up with a computer AI with the same level of standing out, but come up with a decent story. Like you can kind of how we in America has the big fear about if AI ever became sentient is basically gonna be Ultron.
yeah, Skynet Junior basically.
Yeah.
Anonymous Skynet Junior. That's what Ultron's going to be. And if Ultron ever came into reality, and our reality, Terminator ain't got squat on him.
No, it really don't.
I'd actually be kind of an interesting comic to see, but Ultron is basically Skynet, but in a much dangerous form, more aggressive, doesn't care. I do like the way that they brought the personality of him in the movie.
Yes.
Bringing that depth of character in there. But comic book wise, he is a very methodical killing machine.
And
Without a care.
be honest, isn't he the one of the very few villains that's actually defeated the Avengers? Like actually killed them?
In one of the sidelines, I think he killed most of them. I was trying to remember the exact series, but he's come close to eliminating a lot of the characters in several teams. Just because, and they've had a lot of teams get together and try to take him down. The thing is, being that he's AI or artificial intelligence, he's spread all over the place. It just depends on how much of a presence he has and what form. I think they're
Yeah.
up to Ultron like 26 now or something along those lines of versions that has manifested itself into a physical being that you have seen. But really, the character lies in the background watching all the time until it has a chance, an opportunity to come back. And then when it does, it comes back with just stomping everybody. And it takes
Yeah.
everybody to stop it. Where, like I say,
No.
again, Brainiac, when we've had a lot of teams go against Brainiac, and because of his knowledge base, defeat a lot of them. But it's the human element that always beats Brainiac. Brainiac can't understand that. Humans just have a natural drive to survive, no matter what the circumstances. And I think
It's
that's what eluded Brainiac in the animated series and comic series.
where it says intelligence is only matched by imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it is. I think. I mean, he's so smart, but at the same time, without creativity, that's like the only thing that can possibly match that. So
You
I
can't
personally
understand
think.
it. It's a concept that eludes the character.
Hmm.
Humanity eludes it. Why are you still trying? I mean, obviously, I'm more superior. I'm more dangerous, and I can wipe out all of you. But you're still trying. Why? Why do
Yeah,
that? Why don't you just let
yeah,
me absorb you and be part of the Borg collective, if you want to use the term for your Star Trek fans out there? Be part of the
yes,
collective. Be part
yeah.
of the knowledge base. Why are you fighting me?
And there's actually been another character in film that actually says something close to that. Agent Smith from The Matrix.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So I think when it comes between the two, I think maybe Brainiac pulls off the more computer ass. I'm not sure. I'm kind of in between with them. I like both of them.
Now they are unique characters in both their universes, even though they're the same. Just kind of like we deal with, um, let's say, Doctor Doom and Iron Man.
Yeah,
Both incredibly smart people. Both built their own armor. Although one's a little more in the magic world and technological side, like Doctor Doom. Then you have Iron Man, which is pure mechanical and genius.
yes,
You have those characters. I think you always have some kind of crossover between Marvel and DC. You have either that darker, edgier character that we see in the DC world, the darker, edgier teams, more grittier, more violent. Whereas the Marvel world's a little bit more lighthearted, even though they have probably more in-depth stories. They expand into more worlds than we do see in the DC world. We see a lot more stories. Like I say, we've been watching the Marvel universe, cinematic universe, for the last 10 years now, coming out and reintroducing people who have never probably seen comic books, and little kids who have never seen. I mean, they know what superheroes are. They see them on TV. They see like stuff like Teen Titans, the animated series of Teen Titans. They see Spider-Man animated series that are out there. We have several animated movies that are out there that have been released over the last few years. DC probably taking the lead in animated series, as we talked about our last chat. But Marvel has taken over the movie aspect, where DC really controls that animated. And so you get a mixture of those stories, and these people are now seeing these characters come to life, where you and I have known them in physical comic book form for years, and we've read these comics and collected them and done a good job of keeping our collections and diving into these characters, and we know more into the story than what you see on the film. So for us, it gives a little extra into learning about seeing these characters come to life on the movie side of the house, where, again, kids, I would say even little teens, probably saying 15, 16 years old, really never saw these characters before. They never have read a comic book. They've never seen anything but quick TV shows that just give you a little storyline into the characters, just a tiny dip in the bucket, basically. So I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad they're bringing it out. I mean, it's great to see little kids walking around with Captain America, Iron Man. They're all like, woohoo! And they're bringing all these characters. Infinity Toy series are bringing these characters for Infinity series. Legos now introduced gaming series with all these characters in them. So it's good. It's great. It's awesome to see all this coming forth. And, we can sit here and talk about it for years, not just days or hours. It's years of stories, because these people have never seen or read, they've never read the comics, so they don't know all the other stories that go into these characters. They see the 2.5-hour movie. What's that?
Let me ask you something. Okay, now the two front runners for both Marvel and DC are one of the most I'm just saying prominent, because they each one have about 3 of them. DC has Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman as its 3, and Marvel has I think a couple more, but I want to say the main ones are Spider-Man, Captain America, and Wolverine.
Yeah, more trademarked. Iron Man, you gotta add Iron Man into that, because his presence has been he's had the most movies, most interaction. He's probably the most cross-platform character, whether it's his dad or Tony Stark, Howard or Tony Stark, even in the TV series with blank. Agent Carter.
Yes,
that's all I had. Agent Carter.
And Stump too.
His dad plays in there, and then we see Tony Stark in there. But a lot of people associate with Wolverine in a heartbeat.
Yes,
pure built human killing machine. And when I saw Hugh Jackman for the first time as Wolverine, they could have not nailed it. I mean, he looked literally like he just walked out of the comic book. I was like,
and he definitely has that. He definitely has that presence too.
Oh man, he commands the presence. He looks like him. He sounds like him. I mean, he was just screaming it. And it's just also just like having Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr.
Perfect.
He is Iron Man. He's had substance abuse problems. He's had drinking problems. He's very, very smart. He's not just some chump actor. I mean, the guy's actually really smart, and so he fits that bill so well. That when I'm reading a comic book and I see him, I'm like, you could not have probably picked somebody better.
Yeah, he definitely owns that role. I want to know, who do you think do you like more, Captain America or Superman? And I'm not just saying because of the superpowers, or just them as a character. And also, which one of their storylines do you like better?
I like Captain America much better than Superman. I think Captain America to me brings, like, watching the first movie before Winter Soldier, just Captain America, the original that we've seen.
Yes.
Chris Evans brings Captain America to life. You know, the little nerdy kid who always got beat up, but he kept his wits about him. He kept that internal strength. He kept everything to him. He didn't give up. And even when he was given the gift of the super soldier serum, you know, that's what the doctor saw in him. He told him, stay true to yourself. And as you see the character, you know, all throughout the movies and even in Civil War, you know, he stands up for what he thinks is right.
Yes.
And he's willing to fight and die to make sure that happens. And that's really one of the things that draws me into the character of Captain America, because no matter what the circumstances, you know, he's lived, well, in the series, at least 90 years. You know, he's gone from the 1940s, World War II, to now modern time, you know, a huge shell shock for somebody already.
Yeah.
And his moral compass is so much more attuned to the 1930s and 40s to what we have today. And no matter what the circumstances, he's always trying to do what he thinks is best by his beliefs. And I think that's what really attracts me to it. Superman is a good character. You know, I liked when he was portrayed in not the reboot, but the original series with Lex Luthor in it, where, you know, he's getting his butt handed to him. You know, he's been stabbed with kryptonite. You know, he's learning humanity. He's you know, trying to do the best he can, and even in the end, he's, no matter what the case is, he tries, even if he knows he's going to sacrifice himself, he still goes for it and gets rid of the big, you know, kryptonite planet rocks and chunks them. But he gave everything he had.
Superman Returns.
Yeah, he gave everything he had. You know, and I thought that was really cool. I was kind of one of those moments in the movie that I was like, man, yeah, go, do it. But still, all in all, though, I want to stick with Captain America. I am. He's always been that natural leader. He's always been willing to stick up for what he stands for. Right or wrong, he's going to stick to his guns.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a series or a storyline, you know, I like the older style of the stories when he's in World War II going against the Red Skull.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed those. I never really got too far into the series. Trying to find those comics is very hard.
Yeah.
So the few that I do have, you know, it was always interesting to see the stories of him, you know, back in World War II, you know, fighting the Nazis, fighting Hydra, you know, going in there. And I like that. I like that style of story. Because, you know, the Red Skull was throwing out all these futuristic machines.
Yeah.
You know, the Skull and him are basically equals, except the Skull unfortunately had side effects and went a little crazy. But he's sticking for what he thinks too. I mean, he's sticking to his guns. You know, Hail Hydra, let's keep on trucking, let's take over the world.
Yeah.
You know, they're perfect opposites to each other. So,
and
you know,
I like that symbolism too. I like that symbolism that they are the same, but at the same time, their morals are what make them different.
Exactly. You know, what, take over the world or protect the world. You know, that's what they do.
I like. I gotta admit, I'm a bigger Superman fan than Captain America, and it's not because of his abilities. It's because of the choice that he makes. Because when it comes to Captain America, you know, he's a soldier, and that's his mentality, to protect people, uphold justice, and that's that I can get behind him on that. But the Superman making a moral decision to be like, okay, well, I could use these powers for good. He doesn't have really any training, and I like his backstory too. Although I will say Captain America's is more original, or you know, it's better. I could say in this sense.
I can work with you with Superman in that case, because I mean, you have the most, pretty much in the DC universe, at least hero wise, he is the most powerful character.
Yes.
And he could easily wipe the planet clean, and nothing could stop him. nothing would stop him. I mean, he would just be that much of a force for good or bad.
Yes.
In this case, he was raised from a kid and raised right, old school right. An older couple did
Yeah.
raise him. So, he learned good values, good core values, and he chose, as you say, to stand up for the right, the good, for those who can't have a voice.
Yes.
Similarity, the characters are fairly identical, except one is super powered and one is super serumed.
Yeah.
And he's willing to stand up for it. And I have, a great respect for that type of character. I mean, like I say, he has the choice. He could have done whatever he wanted.
He could have just lay waste the planet.
Yeah, he could have said,
and
you know what? There's nobody that can even stop me. I mean, heck, let's just mow over the whole planet and keep on trucking. Or I can subjugate you.
Yeah. And now there was a series, the Injustice series, where in the alternate reality, Superman actually did that.
Yes. That's kind of where I was driving us towards.
Yes.
Where, the most powerful man in the universe decides, I'm going to own this place, and decides to do it, and he does. And how do you stop him? How do you stop somebody that powerful? I don't think we need to ruin the series for anybody, but it's a series that I am definitely going to be watching or getting into, because it's kind of like those what if comics that used to come out. What if Superman took over the world? What would happen? Or what if the Watcher decided to turn his back on Earth when the Celestials showed up? I mean, there's all kind of different storylines in that comic series. But that is one of those, and I think it's also into the video game as well, if I remember correctly.
I think so. I think
actually they're getting ready to release the second one. I haven't really dived too much into video games. I'm great at reading stories and scanning through material and stuff. I just, sometimes I like the storyline of video games, and I'll jump into them. And that storyline caught my attention when my son was talking about it. But until we started talking, I just kind of put it off to the side. But I'm definitely going to be stepping back and looking into that and saying, what happened? What went into that series?
The Injustice series, I think, is probably the best in the video game as far as story, next to the Batman Arkham one. But it's really good, and I like how they do dive into that dynamic about Superman becoming a bad guy, as well as when we was talking about the animated films, of how in the Gods and Monsters series, there's another alternate reality where Superman isn't the son of Jor-El. He's the son of Zod.
Really?
And, Batman's actually a vampire, but it's a different guy. And then the woman that's Wonder Woman, she's a new god. So it's
big twist.
Yeah, they had it was pretty good. They have some really good stories.
Yeah, I love the creative stories and throwing something out there and being different. The interesting thing is, you have to think of these characters who've been writing for Superman for the last 50 years. Well, what can we do that we haven't done before, and how are we going to do it? You got to keep those creative juices flowing. Plus, you also have to kind of keep up with the times, too.
Yes. Which is why a lot of times when a movie comes out with a new story and that's not original, I get behind it. I really do. That's like the X-Men movies. A lot of the storylines were original stories for the movies, and I didn't mind them so bad. I thought they were pretty good. And speaking of X-Men, I wanted to get your opinion. If the X-Men could do battle against any team in the DC world, who would you think they could go against?
Ooh. Well, most of the X-Men are all obviously mutants, superpowered in some cases. I mean, my number one would probably be the Justice League. I mean, they're going to have a very similar matching of characters, but with Wolverine, he would definitely be one of their major obstacles, no matter what. The only person that would stand a chance against him would actually be Superman. I think everybody else would get chopped up pretty good with just his raw brute force and a healing ability.
Do you think that it would be a match? Because people put it on YouTube where Batman would fight Wolverine. You think Batman could beat Wolverine?
Actually, there's there's a YouTube series that pits a lot of the oddball characters against each other.
Yes, I seen a death battle.
Well, there's actually two. There's one that's kind of like an animated series. I saw one that was like Wolverine versus some animated battle character, and I cannot remember his name. He's a cyborg, and I mean they were just going at each other, and you pretty much thought X was going to win, and Y just kind of pulls it out at the last minute.
Yeah,
Um, but that was kind of interesting series. Like Batman versus Darth Vader was an interesting crossover.
I laughed. That was hilarious. I mean, it was
Um,
cool, but it was hilarious.
Deadpool and Domino versus Harley Quinn and the Joker
I
was
did not.
another. That was a live action one. That was actually pretty good. There's a lot of those series, and it's great to throw cross teams in there and
Yeah,
pit different characters because you just there's so many similarities between Marvel characters and DC characters. We have Namor, we have Aquaman, we have Superman, or excuse me, we have Batman, we have Iron Man,
hmm
we have Thor, we have New Gods, we have a Galactus, we have, or excuse me, even Apocalypse really would be a good match in this case too. With Darkseid, I mean, we have our big superpowered monster guys down to the characters who have no superpowers are just super smart. Tony Stark has no physical power whatsoever. In fact, he's most of the time he was a half drunk character who has got a genius IQ of over 200, and he builds things. He's a mechanical genius. Where we have Batman, who has learned through his strategy how to build, create, speak different languages. I mean, he's an all around knows just about everything. And then he
a jack
also
of
had to
all
do the
trades.
physical aspect of it, where he uses his body with assistance. Very similar to Iron Man's armor, but he's not encapsulated in a full armor, mechanical
Yeah,
armor. But equally, they're the same style of character uh, that go against each other. That would be one to actually kind of see. I would like to see Iron Man versus Batman. That would be kind of an interesting sideline. Even I would actually like to see Darkseid versus Apocalypse,
I
or
think
Darkseid versus
uh,
Galactus.
or Darkseid versus Thanos, or Parallax versus Galactus.
Yeah, Mordock. Bring those characters. Bring the Hive in there. We have so many good teams, and we got many bad guy teams too that are out there and doing a crazy comparison. I mean, it's just insane how many storylines and characters we have. One of my favorite storylines has been Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars.
Yeah,
And that's where you brought. I mean, you thought Civil War had a lot of characters in it. Wait till you see Secret Wars. Where a character named the Beyonder comes in, decides to see who's the mightiest. All the bad guys in the world, all the superheroes in the world are split onto a battle world, and they're pitted against each other, given each and every advantage they can have. And they get into it, and you have to read the series. I'm not gonna tell you how it ends, but I mean, it ended up relating to a Secret Wars 2, which was not so much bad guy versus bad guy, but a character trying to understand humanity. How after the results of Secret Wars and seeing what happened there, that same character decided to come to Earth and see it for itself and
yeah.
find out what's going on and get into humanity and why we are the way we are. What drove those characters in Secret Wars to do what they did? So some pretty cool stuff. That's probably one of the more interesting comic series that I really got into. In fact, I think I actually own all of them, at least Secret Wars 1 and probably half of Secret Wars 2. Was a series I was definitely active in keeping up with.
So, do you think that the Secret Wars arc is maybe parallels the Civil War arc in Marvel?
Well,
Hold on, or did I say
no,
that
actually,
backwards?
I'm gonna have to say I can't really relate that the two that are going to be together because when you're dealing with Civil War, the whole thing was about registration, and as you watch the movie, the Accords were basically allowing the government to control the superhero teams, and then registering, making all superheroes or Inhumans or whatever the case may be register with the government to be accounted for and controlled. And that's why the big spark of Captain America is like, that's not right. each side has a winning argument, but that was what it was designed to do, was spark your, put it in a real world perspective. You have all these superheroes. You saw the destruction, what happened when they went against the bad guy forces and invasions and all this. The destructive power of the Hulk released. There was, what you don't think about in the comic series, you see them all smashing everything, but you don't realize that every building they're hitting, every laser blast, people are dying.
Yeah, people are in there.
There are people who are dying. I mean, they show you the few that get saved, but in that series, people died. They just Marvel and all them really don't bring it out saying 10 million people died in this building today because of you guys punched a hole through it with a big whale monster. They don't equate that. They just say, hey, they saved the day and everything's cool. But the Accords were kind of saying that bad things have happened. You need to be held accountable for what you've done. You just can't walk around with superpowers and just blow up a building for the heck of it. And that's what the Accords were trying to do. And then when you saw Batman versus Superman, when you see Bruce Wayne cruising up in his little Jeep, screaming and watching Superman and Zod fight each other. Literally was Zod with no regard for humanity whatsoever. He didn't care. So, and Superman's trying to direct him and deflect him from killing all these people, but in the fight, he has no control of where he gets knocked through. He's trying to limit that damage, but that's what drove the Bruce Wayne character to be against all the superhumans and saying, these people are bad. Superman's bad. There's nothing we can do to stop him because he's so destructive. And that's why they even had that Senate hearing was, Superman needs to be held accountable for his actions. The similar storyline, where Secret Wars was more of a character trying to understand humanity through good and bad, where Civil War is more of accountability and what's right and what's wrong. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, makes total sense. And I was going to ask you, who would you side with on
for Civil War?
Yeah.
That's a hard question because I know that the true character of Captain America is that of one who's trying to do the right thing, and I know that he would not spawn off and do the wrong thing. That's just his moral compass. That's his values. And a lot of the team that was with him shared that same value.
Yeah.
But indirectly, any involvement that they have with somebody else who, let's say, is against the Accord or, whatever bad guy of the week may be coming, those bad guys really don't care about anything. And even though our characters try to do the right thing, they're going to get caught up in destruction. People are going to get hurt. People are going to die. It's going to happen in the comic series. It's something that comics never really dive into. The reality, if it were a reality, you watch a whole building, those people didn't have time to get out. They're all toast. They never bring it forth because, you would make comics so more morbid.
Yeah.
They just kind of focus with the damage and destruction. They just kind of leave it generic. And they say, and in Superman, they said people lost their lives. They did identify that in that movie. They didn't do that in Marvel, except for when Scarlet Witch threw
the
crossbones
explosion.
in his explosion, and it was no intention of hers to do anything. She was just getting him out of the way, and it just happened.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where you get into that moral question. Should you be held accountable? Sure, I think that they should be held accountable. Do they need to be on the whim of a government or something along those lines? That's kind of where they're throwing it out there. They're using that. All these people were happy to have them, save the day, but when it comes to the end, they're all pissed now about, you blew up our buildings or you killed all these people, but they weren't worried about that at that moment because they were worried about saving the earth, saving the planet. So it's hard for me to kind of, I would stick with what's right, which is the Captain America side, but I do think in this case, accountability would be something that, it's going to happen. It's going to be there. How you address that, that's kind of where I have to, I'm not sure. It's it's one of those difficult questions, and that's what Civil War was about. Asking those questions.
That's why And that's why I did like the one thing I will stress about the Captain America Civil War movie and the Batman versus Superman movie, because when you think about it, both movies did stress the fact that people died. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
People
collateral
died, and
damage. There's
yeah,
buildings. There's
yeah,
people. Looking at the character who lost. The guy who worked for Bruce Wayne. He ended up having his legs. Ended up losing his legs.
yeah,
And his
and
anger towards Superman for the fight, but it wasn't Superman's direct fault. It was the actions of Zod and being careless, and Superman trying to stop him at all costs.
yes,
But again, he had no. I mean, he was getting pounded pretty good because once Zod figured out the game, it was on.
yes.
And he was like he had just been that way for his whole entire life.
You think Zod is and I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying about Captain America and the Red Skull, where you have Superman and Zod. They are of the same. They're cut from the same mold, but they're different ideologies. Is what makes them.
As we saw Zod in the movie, he was the planet's protector. That was his job. And in the Kryptonian world, as they defined in the movie, you had the Codex, which was basically what you're going to be, what's your future, whether you're a scientist, a warrior, an adventurer, whatever the case was. That's what that whole ship was about. It was seeding the galaxy with life. Trying to get out there and expanding the Kryptonian world. And so Zod's driven was to protect his race at all costs. And that's what he was doing. And Superman really he was born Kryptonian. He had never had exposure to Kryptonian life. And all he knew was what he had learned on Earth. Right is right. Protect life, value life. They're tragic characters in each category. Zod was doing what he thought he needed to do, how he was built, how he was designed.
Yes.
And he said, the only way I'm going to keep this alive is basically take this planet from you guys at no matter what the cost, zap all the life on this planet, bring it back as new Krypton. And that's what he was doing. And then at the end of the movie, he said, I have no more purpose. All my people are gone. There was no hope for him. So that's when he just went bonkers. and basically just decided to take it all out on Kyle. So
I want to know, do you think Marvel characters have more depth to them? We did discuss this last night, but I just wanted to go ahead and reiterate that conversation while we're talking about it now.
Marvel tends to take groups and build them up and grow them. But you have to read a lot to get into the Marvel characters and how they are. With the DC characters, they focused more on the individuals first, giving you their backgrounds, giving you what drives them, giving them what makes them who they are and what they are, and then brings them into a group or a team setting in most cases. Again, Justice League is a prime example. We've seen Superman, we've seen Batman, we've seen them together. We get introduced to Wonder Woman. We've seen the Flash hinted at. We've seen Aquaman hinted at. Then we have, where we jump into Marvel Comics, we're already jumping into teams. We're jumping into the X-Men. We're jumping into the Inhumans. We're jumping into all these already established groups. And then eventually you get a side series like Wolverine or Younger X-Men or side stories, but most of the time you see them are all in a team setting. So I think you see a lot more in-depth characters when you get in the DC world individually, but Marvel has a more team perspective, except for a few handfuls, like Captain America is a prime example, Iron Man's a prime example, Spider-Man's one of those prime examples where you have individuals that have been series for a very long time and then brought into unique teams or unique stories.
Yeah.
But for the most part, DC, I think, does a better driven character storyline. They bring you more into the character's life, more into the character's thought processes, and then eventually throw them all together. Because I think that's what makes it interesting, because you see all these characters. You see Batman, he's worked solo, pretty much for all the comic series. And for the movie series, he's always been solo. He's never had a partner.
Yeah.
mean, he's worked with other characters, but in essence, he's always been a solo character. And now
I
you
mean,
have,
he's had a few. He's had a few side partners too. I mean, he's been with Jason Todd, uh, something Drake, Red Robin,
yeah,
his
I mean,
son.
in the
Yeah,
comic
yeah.
series, yes. But as for, say, exposure to the movie series,
Okay, yeah,
what most people have seen, most people have adapted themselves to, because again, you got a younger generation that are just now seeing Batman for the first time. And so all they know is what they've seen on the big screen or DVD rentals or whatever. So you just saw an introduction to Robin at the end of the Batman Chris Nolan series, even
yeah,
though they didn't say his name was Robin per se. In this case, Robin was being more
yeah,
identified as Batman's replacement, not just Robin. So
yeah,
for the most part, he's been a solo character, and now you have this new version of Batman, Ben Affleck, in here, who has, in the short time we've seen him, he had Robin, I guess, at one time, and something tragic happened to
yeah,
him, which I think it was actually Jason Todd. I think
yeah.
was the character that they identified was killed. So he's a driven character. He had a partner. He tried it. It didn't work out. Unfortunately, his actions related to his death. So we see, you got a personal vendetta in there. He feels he can't keep a partner, keep him alive, and now he's been solo for this, for a while at this point. And then you bring in all these other characters. You get the introduction of Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so she's now kind of been brought into it. Now he's aware that there are other superpowered individuals, not just Superman. You got Wonder
Yeah,
Woman. And then he discovers all the information about all the other superhumans or metahumans that you have, such as the Flash and Cyborg.
Flash, and then you got Aquaman.
Aquaman
That's
and
coming out too.
Cyborg. So now he's like, wow, there's more to it than just me. And that's one of the things that's always been interesting is, we have our core Justice League, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Ironically, that's who they started out with, it's Batman versus Superman, the beginning. Literally, it's the
Yes, and
beginning
they
of the
did.
Justice League. And seeing
Yes,
the trailer for the Justice League movie coming out next year, it makes me very excited to see, Batman stepping up, like he has been in most of the animated series. He's been one of the, core leaders of the Justice League.
yes.
He had to learn to work with others. He's had to learn to develop with all these characters. So that's kind of an interesting thing to see that leadership quality start stepping in and bringing into these teams.
Okay, when it comes down to it, if you could, who do you think would win in a decent fight? Well, I ain't gonna say a decent fight because no fights are decent, but who would you say would win? The Justice League, the JLA, or the Avengers?
JLA versus the Avengers.
Yes.
Ooh. Man, that's a toughie. Unfortunately, I think Justice League would probably do a lot more damage simply
Yes.
because of the Superman factor.
Do you think because the Avengers has the Hulk in it, the Avengers has Thor, that would be because Thor and Thor can stand up to the Hulk for a while, and the
You can.
Hulk,
Asgardians in the series that they discussed them are not necessarily super powered beings, but they are denser and stronger. They can take a
yes,
good beating. But a lot of their ability comes as he said, what is magic but more advanced technology,
yes,
as he said in there, and they use a lot more technology that to us appears as magic.
yeah,
So yes, Thor is going to be a good player in there. He's going to take a good whomping. I think Superman will eventually wear him down, if not kill him in a raw fight. We talked about the Hulk. My understanding and envisionment of the Hulk has always been the madder he gets, the more stronger he gets, the bigger he gets. We
yeah,
saw the first Hulk movie out there. I was really thrilled. The story was kind of weak to me, because they kind of messed it up. But when the Hulk got mad, he noticed he got bigger,
yeah. He did get bigger.
stronger, and he's whooping out, M1A Abrams, 18-ton tanks, just slinging them around like they're toys. And he got madder and madder and madder, and the bigger he became,
Yeah,
to where he was getting monstrous. And the rage of the Hulk is what drives him. it was supposed to be humanity's next step in evolution, is what Bruce Banner was looking for, trying to cure humanity of disease and stuff, and he ended up tapping into the core of humanity, of this angry monster.
Yeah.
And so, sure, I think with Superman and the Hulk going back and forth together, it would be a monstrous fight. It'd be just like him fighting Doomsday.
Yeah, that's another question I was going to ask. So we did touch on this: Doomsday versus the Hulk.
Doomsday would eventually kill him. Just no doubt. I mean, the Hulk will probably get him once, but that's it. The theory behind Doomsday was he was a weapon system built for survivability. Once he's beaten, he'll never be beaten the same way twice. It may take him a way to come back from the goop that he gets pounded into from the Hulk. When he comes back, the Hulk will not be able to beat him, and he will defeat the Hulk. I've read a lot in the Doomsday series, because when episode or issue 75 came out, The Death of Superman, that was like, what? It just blew me away that they actually decided to kill Superman. I mean, just shocking. But if you go and read the comic series prior to that, it gets really more in depth. You don't realize how much of a storyline there was to that.
Yeah.
And if you read comics and the Superman comics, and you can find find issues of that, or at least digital copies online, go back about a year, and they hinted to Doomsday many about a year in advance before the character actually showed up as Doomsday. You learn a lot. You learn about Lex Luthor. You learn a lot about your teams, and how Doomsday was present around, but just no one ever realized and put two and two together until it finally came down to, the entire Justice League got smoked. Most of your superpowered teams in that time frame were smoked. Brewster Gold, Mr. Technological guy, he got smoked. I mean, there were heroes dropping like flies because nothing could match Doomsday.
Yeah.
Until Superman finally got personally involved when everybody else failed. But reading that storyline, that story arc is excellent, and I highly recommend anybody who is interested in the Doomsday character. What you saw in the movie, don't stick with that. Read the comics and realize how big of a powerhouse Doomsday actually was.
I did like the one in the movie. I mean, it was different and he had a different origin story, but I liked him because
he still evolved in the story, in the show.
Yeah.
Let me phrase that. In the movie, he did evolve each time he was kind of beaten, per se. You watched the bone structures, you watched him change, you watched his powers develop as he was fighting. So yes, they had that ability in there. How they got rid of him was slightly different because of the what I'm used to is the comic book series, not the movie series. So
yeah,
I thought that was kind of original. I never really thought about that before. So I did think that was an interesting moment. And again, we were talking about the moral compass of characters and Superman in this case. So, that was a nice touch to add into that series with the Superman Doomsday mixed up in there, because of what happened in the comics very similarly happened into the movie with some changes.
Yeah.
So, and that gave you that again, we're talking about moral compass of characters. Superman could have easily just flown away and said, screw it, I'm out of here. I don't need this crap. I can go somewhere else. But what he did in the movie, not to ruin the movie for those who haven't seen it, was heroic and epic.
Yes. And it definitely was impactful. It did have a very impactful.
Exactly. You're like, what? And it's like, okay, but that describes the character. That's what Superman would do. He would do anything for humanity, no matter what the price, if it benefited humanity at that point.
So, I need to know, because Doomsday is like one of the characters, like the powerhouse characters that if any, like the world can't beat them.
No, Marvel. Most of the DC universe super teams and individuals went against Doomsday and they lost. And in the comic series, a lot of them died.
So in Marvel, I think Marvel equivalent might be the Hulk, but do they actually have a villain? Like one super villain?
They have gone. Well, the closest one would be,
because I know there was the World War Hulk, and Hulk decimated everybody.
Well, Hulk World series.
The one when he came back to Earth
from the Gladiator games.
Yes, he decimated everybody.
The the Hulk has the power. He has the ability. He has the regenerate as long as he's the Hulk. But as the Hulk, we know that he does not have cognitive powers.
Mm-hmm.
He is very simplistic. He's a child when you would think of the Hulk. And we talked about this last night. She-Hulk, who was better, She-Hulk or the Hulk?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, She-Hulk has the abilities of the Hulk, but she has more. She has full faculties. She knows who she is, what she's doing, how she's doing it. She has the strength, but she doesn't have the raw super rage power that the Hulk does. I mean, I think the Hulk would actually end up killing her if they went head on. Even though she's smarter, I think in just pure power, the Hulk would end up just killing her in raw power.
I think even in that issue of the World War Hulk, which I think was actually a fantastic story arc. I really enjoyed it. But I think even in that issue, she tried to fight him. And, by this time, he was like God mode, so nobody could touch him.
Yeah, she can fight. She's been on many of the teams. She's been on the Justice League. Oh, excuse me, not Justice League, excuse me. She's been on the Avengers, East Coast Avengers. She's bounced around a lot on many teams and individually on herself.
Yeah, I think she's even been in the Fantastic Four at one point.
Yeah, she's got the skills, but I think just in raw, brutal power, the Hulk would just decimate her over time. Much like fighting, Thor. Eventually he's going to one of the two going to wear out. But
yes,
again, the meaner, like if you remember in the Avengers movie, when the Hulk flipped out on the helicarrier.
Yes.
And he was so mad. He was trying to pick up Thor's hammer, and he was almost picking it up just by raw power, even though he couldn't.
Yes.
He was getting it off the ground, and it was denting the floors of the thing because he was so mad. And he was still growing. He wasn't even close to, anywhere to maximum potential.
Which I would have liked for them, admittedly, in that movie to have a bigger fight. I would have loved the bigger, like the whole in the Avengers: Age of Ultron. We had the actual fight between Tony Stark and the Hulk.
Yeah, with the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah, that literally is the best representation of the Hulk.
And that showed him in pure rage. I mean, Stark was, trying everything, and I mean, he was getting his butt handed to him. The Hulk he was just actually, rampaging like crazy, and eventually he finally got him. But I still kind of question that.
I think it's possible because it was like he got him off guard.
Yeah, he did sneak up on him pretty good there. And we have seen, the Hulk, later in the comic series, Bruce Banner, through training and other stuff, was able to kind of control the Hulk more when he is in that form.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I liked at the end of the Avengers when he's standing there and they're talking. He goes, well, let's get to work. And you see the big whale creature coming at him, and he morphs into the Hulk on his own.
Yeah.
And does his dirty work, and he's a little bit more cognizant than he was of a pure raging animal.
Yeah.
So he eventually does in the comic series, get to be a little more, still not, literally talking like us, but he grows up mentally and is able to control the Hyde portion of the Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
So it gives a little bit interesting character, and I think at one time they end up splitting too, where the Hulk becomes a pure raw monster on its own, and then Bruce Banner is on his own, but he still turns into the Hulk, but he's like a pink Hulk. He doesn't change into the big raging green machine. So,
one thing I do think that DC, I do quite find out about DC that I do like, but I kind of think is a bit over the top is how they hearken to kids superheroes. Like, I think they're more prominent with that, like with the Teen Titans and the Young Justice.
The younger series was trying to bring into the Justice League and bring them in there. Teen Titans, my kids watch them. I watch them, but there's been two versions of the Teen Titans series. There's one more the humorous haha animated series, which is on right now, and then you had the more serious version where it had Slade as a main character in there, and the story writing was a little more wasn't as, I don't say kid friendly, but it wasn't like little teeny bopper kids.
Yeah.
It had more of a story.
I really enjoyed it.
I like really that series a lot. I like the humorous one. I think it's funny. I mean, I can dig with it. I can sit there and watch Teen Titans all night long. But I like the more serious version too.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend. I think one of the bad things about them doing that, I don't mind Teen Titans Go. I think it is hilarious. But I think what they did was they shouldn't have replaced they replaced a great series for kid friendliness.
Yes,
If they
they
would have
did.
paralleled them together, it'd have been.
Well,
It'd
see,
been
they did actually. The same people who voice them and animate them do the same series.
I mean, actually played the same, like two different series at the same time.
Yeah, if they had
Because
done that way,
yeah,
they've done that with several of the other X-Men series too.
hmm
If you watch, I don't think it's on anymore, but there is a more kidder friendly version of the Avengers.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is the chibi version where they look like a bunch of little kids?
Yeah, there's a little kid
Yeah,
version of it, and there's another one that's
Avengers is. It's like three Avengers
uh,
series.
yeah,
I know.
there's
Yeah, I
a
watched
really nice,
Avengers
cool one
Assemble.
that's more like not necessarily adult oriented, but it's
Yeah,
more um, serious. Like you would buy
yeah,
a DVD or CD and watch it.
yeah,
Then they have the little kitty one, and there's kind of a one that's in the middle where they just kind of have a few characters, and then they just kind of play a story of the day or bad guy of the
yeah.
day, and they do introduce a few things. I've seen Mordock on a couple of the episodes. I've seen Namor
You,
show up here and there.
I think
Um,
you're talking about Avengers Assemble. No, Avengers Assemble was one of them. But I know. I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the name. But I thought Avengers Assemble was pretty good. The only thing I didn't like about that was the good guys always kind of won.
yeah.
I would have liked to seen the bad guy kind of win here, and over the overall story, the good guys win, but let it actually be a little bit fair towards the bad guys too.
Well, we as a society prefer that the good guys and the white hats win every time. That's
Yeah,
just how we are. We always expect the good guys to win, but I would like to see where you don't always win.
yeah.
You
The
might
bad
lose.
guys win sometimes.
You
Yeah, the
might
bad guys.
Superman ain't gonna always bail your butt out.
Yeah,
Um,
which is a
Batman may
good
not always
thing.
be there. I've seen in Spider-Man. I
Yeah,
have seen that happen in the animated series where
yeah,
he doesn't always, yeah, is kind of a tragic character sometimes because he's trying, but he's got so much going on in his own personal life. He's got, he's one of those characters that, as we saw in the movies and even the sort of in the reboots, which I don't like the latter reboots. Those were kind of sucky, but in the original 3 reboot, we saw, Parker's trying to deal with school. He's trying to deal with home. He's trying to deal with, I've got these new
work.
powers. How am I going to
Yeah,
do things? Trying to keep a job, looking at a girlfriend, trying to be the human with superpowers.
yeah,
And it's overwhelming. He doesn't know what to do. He's a lost character. He's trying to figure out where his place is in the world. I can't, knowingly, I can't have somebody who knows who I am because it puts him in danger. Da, 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 we see that happen.
yeah,
All these things happen to him. He's a human character. He's not Martian Manhunter who just shows up, or Batman through tragedy, or all these other characters. Wolverine through experimentation. He's just a plain Jane guy, and sometimes I can relate with Spider-Man a lot. In fact, a lot of people can relate with Spider-Man because they have so many things going on. Yet they're trying to be that superhero, whether it's a
yeah.
kid, a spouse, a brother, a sister.
He most likely is the most relatable character.
Yeah, he
Um,
he is, for all intents and purposes, probably the most human character there,
mhm.
who is trying to deal with life and do something big, but everything comes in there, and that's what makes Spider-Man, to me, more just approachable as a person. He didn't ask for it. He wasn't trying to do anything. It just happened. Now you're
Mhm.
given, with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, that stuck through that whole movie, and it is rings bell true. And whatever you do, great power comes great responsibility. So, I think he is the most human, relatable character of the bunch.
Yes. Out of pretty much both.
Exactly. Out of both
Yeah.
worlds, we saw, Captain America. I can kind of throw in that ball game a little bit because he was
hmm
that guy who was trying to do something. He was trying to go fight for his country. He was trying to do the right thing, and they just kept throwing him under the curve.
Yeah.
You're just not good enough. You're not, you know, you're not the man that we need. We need this guy, this model. One of the things was the picture on the wall that you stood and put your face in to show you in uniform. You know,
Yes.
that's the guy. We want that 6 foot tall, 200-pound guy who's all muscle who will go out there and take on these Nazis. And yet he's a 100-pound weakling who's 5'2". You know, but the character's heart, you know, what
Yeah. And
drove him is what really stood out to me in the Captain America series. It still sticks out every time I see the movie. You know, the whole
absolutely.
beginning of it. You know, even when the scientist is killed, he still tells him, you know, stick true to yourself. You know,
Yep.
don't give up, stay true to yourself. And then he died. And that
Yep.
stayed with that character, and it stayed with the character in all the Avenger movies, all the single solo movies. You know, it's what makes Captain America Captain America.
And I think that's pretty. I do think that is actually pretty good. We're gonna get bit. We're gonna
I
throw
think we're
out
going
some
to run out of
questions.
time here today.
Yeah, we're gonna throw out a quick couple of questions. If you could pick 3 superheroes from Marvel, who would it be?
Can we do superheroes and supervillains?
I was gonna get to the supervillain one next. Just 3.
All right. Whew. Marvel, Iron Man, Captain America, Doctor Strange.
I would have to say, I think I told you it was Captain America, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. Okay, what about villains?
Villains, Doctor Doom, Red Skull, and I'm going to throw in there, well, actually kind of a tie. It's either Galactus or Apocalypse.
Okay. Let me see. Let me think. As far as mine, as far as villains are concerned, I would most likely have to start off with throwing myself off.
Go for Doctor Doom. Do Doctor Doom. You know you want to do it.
Oh, okay. Venom, Mystique,
Ooh.
and I like Carnage too.
You and my son would get along very well. Carnage is one of those characters they brought in there as a pure killing machine like Ultron, except he's organic. And yeah, he's a pretty bad guy. He's kind of single-minded, but he's a pretty good bad guy. I like the Venom symbiont also. So yeah, they're like a whole other breed in themselves. There's even a whole side series with the symbionts in it, where they actually made more symbionts too.
I've actually wanted to read that. I haven't got the time yet, but I actually have wanted to read that.
My son's most prized comic book is The Creation of Carnage.
I need to
Carnage
check
first
that out.
appeared. It's a more of a graphic novel style.
Yeah.
But that is one of his most prized comic possessions he owns.
All right, let me ask you this. Who are your 3 favorite characters or superheroes from the DC universe?
Batman's always going to be my number one because I love the Batman. I've always kind of been interested in the Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
And who would be my third one? Gosh. There's a lot of characters. I hate to bring up the 3. I just hate to throw in all the Justice League characters because there's so many others out there. But
you gotta go with it.
We'll chunk in Wonder Woman for right now.
Okay.
Because there's been several versions of her, but you know, I think that's an interesting background for a character.
I've when it comes to the superheroes, and this might come from left field, I like Black Canary, Zatanna, Supergirl. Those are my favorite first 3.
You said Zatanna?
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
And I'm gonna go ahead and start with the villains. My favorite 3 are Darkseid, Poison Ivy, and of course Harley Quinn is number 1.
Well, I know I'm gonna have Brainiac in there because I kind of like those bad guys' super brains. The Joker has been an interesting character. I don't know if I'd jump on him as one of my primary, but for now, I think he'll be on that list. And ooh, man, DC bad guys. Gosh, I like Mr. Freeze. I'm gonna throw in Victor Freeze in there because he's kind of a tragedy in his own self. He's aware of what he does, but he does what he does for a reason. But he's still considered a bad guy. So yeah, I'm gonna throw Mr. Freeze. I also might throw a Slade in there too because I like Slade.
Slade is pretty cool.
Or Deathstroke, as most people know him. But I like Slade Wilson's character. I liked him in the CW, and I did like him in the comic series and the Teen Titans series when they introduced him in there as well, because that's who he was created to fight against anyway. It wasn't necessarily the Green Arrow to begin with. So
yeah. I wanted to ask you something. Also, okay, we know that both Marvel and DC have had reboots. Now, which one do you like better? The Ultimate series, the Ultimate Marvel reboot, or the New 52 DC reboot?
I honestly have not dove too much in either one of the new series. I've only hinkling since we started kind of talking about doing this.
Yeah.
Very, very, very minorly entered the 52 series and seeing what changes they've made in there, and there's a lot to me.
Yes, it is.
So I really can't give you a good valid answer on that right now without really diving into it more. We could say that maybe for one of our other discussions down the road, so I can get some more research time into that and kind of see, because I haven't really bought a comic book in a while, and I know a lot of it's online, but I read a lot, and I get into kind of like, starting on one person, and next thing I'm on 15 layers deep. And you're like, well, I just started looking up Batman. That's all I was doing, and now I'm like 15 layers deep on some other weird subject. So, but for now, I honestly can't really give you a good answer on that because I just don't have enough information to really give you a good solid answer on that. I need to process a little bit more before I can do that.
I'm good. I'm game with that. How would you like since you like Batman so much, how would you like our next session to be? Nothing but Batman characters, story arcs, villains, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, just straight up Batman.
I love Batman. I'm all for it.
All right, then. I guess we'll just go ahead and end that here, guys. Thank you guys for watching this, and thank you again, Ken, for joining me on this Marvel versus DC discussion.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. It's nice to geek out. I don't get to geek out a lot at home, so unless my son's here visiting or I'm around somebody that just understands the lingo, it's just like I'll just save it for somebody. And then when you get somebody like and you won't shut up,
you can't stop. Yeah, you can't stop.
You can't stop because you're like, what about this? And what about that? And what about tonight we've been all over the charts between DC and Marvel. And it's great, it gives a different perspective into everything that we talk about. And, we could talk for years and never even put a dent into this world of comics.
Absolutely.
But it's fun. It's enjoyable. We like, give us some feedback on what you think, subjects in the future if you like. Leave some comments down there. Definitely. Leave them on the Narik Chase channel here. And, we'll look at them and, make some changes. Next week we're talking Batman. So if you got some questions that you want to throw out there, throw them out there. Let's see what we got.
We would definitely like to talk about them. Any subject, go ahead and throw it down there for us to bring on up. Absolutely. And we're going to try to build this. We're definitely going to try to build this. Have you still not started up like a Twitter or anything like that?
I haven't. I've got my personal ones, but for the show, I would probably do something not so personal, more geared towards the show. And I really haven't set up any of those feeds yet right now, but that'll be something as we keep going. I mean, I'll check all the YouTube comments. Yeah, leave them on YouTube, and I'll definitely check them as we go. And then a little bit later down the road, I'll set up a combination of Twitter and accounts and everything so we can get comments and feedbacks. And put them on the show. So,
all right, then. Thank you again, Ken, for joining us on this video, and we'll see you guys next week.
Same time, same place.
All right, and hopefully we'll be a bit on time. All right, then.